So, BIP of Bizarre Interest Productions, and most of you probably forgot that April is also National Poetry Month. Something that I definitely tried not to forget, but unfortunately life sucks, and while things are getting better, it's still pretty a rough month, so I really wish I could have gotten this one out earlier, especially since I don't even know if I'm going to be able to get this out on the same day I'm recording it. A Senryu is a 3 structured line poem, just like a haiku. You know how it goes. 5 sounds on the first line, 7 sounds on the second line, and finally 5 sounds on the third line. However, it's got a focus on human nature, humor, and irony. Haikus are usually focused on nature, while Senryu tends to explore aspects of our own human behavior, relationships, and social quirks. Growing up, and given what I do for a living currently, I have noticed that poems tend to be seen as less fun and more restrictive than most traditional forms of writing and prose. However, I feel like when it comes to doing haikus in general, because there's only one limitation, and that's just the count or the number of sounds, as long as you have a spark of imagination, you can create something magical. So for your YouTube comment challenge, I just want you to make a Senryu or haiku about anything you want. Speaking of which, let's talk about Senryu Girl and Senryu Shoujo. The first thing you'll hear when you consume this content is Sakura Saku, Kimi to no Deai ga Ureshiku te. It's a bit hard to translate into an English haiku since the subtitles even struggled with this one. So I'll try to interpret it in a haiku based on what the English subs provided. When cherry blossoms, 5, bloom, the meetings with you and 7, I become happy, 5. Again, it's nothing groundbreaking, but as you'll see as I talk about that, that's the kind of the point. The people saying this are the characters who make these haikus are high schoolers with social issues, but are trying to make the most out of it, and that's why I want you guys to watch and read the series. While I won't go out of my way to say that the show is specifically about haiku, if you understand poetry lore, just know that since Senryu is more focused on the human connection, that's kind of what brings our characters together and what makes most of these interactions work that they do. It's not the only reason, but it's a driving factor, especially when I explain our 2 leads. The point I also want to remind Gen Alpha specifically is that because these poems are focused on what the characters feel, you still have that emotional depth and cleverness hidden underneath a lot of humor. Since I'm starting the script so late and kind of out of order, I didn't even realize I didn't explain what Senryu Girl is about. See, Senryu Shoujo, or Senryu Girl, is about Nanako Yukishiro, a cute, cheerful, ordinary high school student with her unique trait being the obvious title of the show. She communicates through Senryu, which you now know is a type of Japanese poem following many of the same rules as haiku instead of speaking. The reason why she can is a bit of a spoiler, but long story short, it comes down to her being bullied a lot to the point where she initially didn't even want to come to school. It's touched upon several times and also taken very seriously, but thanks to the other protagonists, Nanako using Senryu as her form of communication was the key to help her become the upbeat person she always wanted to be deep down, herself. And you get to see a lot of the quirks involved in such, and she shows that appreciation towards the other protagonist, Eiji Busujima. Eiji Busujima is a former delinquent she's fallen in for who wants to make his own Senryu, and Eiji uses Senryu as an expression for what he really wants to do, but he's bad at it. The reason why he's a former delinquent, with the nickname Demon of Nishishu, is because he accidentally and unintentionally has a face that convinces people to want to fight him, aka resting battle face, age-friendly but it fits the tone of the series, leading other delinquents trying to either fight or intimidate him to hilarious results of disappointment. Though if you read the manga, there's definitely one time where it's exceptionally helpful and very cathartic. If you know, you know, and if you don't know, get to chapter 104. Plus, you really feel bad for him because it resulted in the other students fearing him because they think that he's a past reputation as a delinquent who picked fights when it was really everyone else trying to pick fights with him. It actually makes him more sympathetic because deep down, he's actually a sweet guy who loves writing and literature. Sure, he's not good, but one of the themes of the story is that at the center point of essential to why the romance works so well. Be yourself. In his eyes, if someone loves another person, then they shouldn't pretend to be someone else, but be themselves without changing a thing. Granted, he's so dense and honest, he doesn't realize that's why he's in love in the first place, though it's really an experience from handling romantic situations. Keep in mind, he is a great guy, but the reason why he's only got 2 friends at the start is because everyone else is judgmental without getting to know him. His poems aren't necessarily good, and that's perfectly fine. They're high schoolers in a literature club for fun for them, and how it should be for normal people and kids and teens around their age should approach poetry and the arts. Those are always meant to be an exploration of our personal thoughts, and he's someone generally making an effort to have fun with this for the first time. In an age where young women are more likely than their male counterparts to have a bachelor's degree, graduate high school, and perform better on standard reading tests than boys thanks to a multitude of factors I can't get into, AG is great because he represents those guys who generally want to get into the work, but he's perceived by society for something he's not, yet he chooses to be himself. Heck, he's not even dumb. He's actually good with math and science, but he's terrible with literature and social studies. And over the course of the series, his score rankings go from 200th to 95th. You could even argue him joining the literature club helped him not find just his passion, but also improve his education. It also helps that Nanako and Eiji actually have a lot in common. Both of them love Senryu. They have really odd thought processes that the other can understand or does their best to appreciate the other's quirks. Take the scene where Nanako and Eiji are playing charades and she intimidates riding a roller coaster with an unexplained win, and Amane, who I'll talk about in a moment, is just asking, hold on, are we just going to ignore that crazy win just now? Meanwhile, she's just happy he got it right. Remember, this is a romance comedy, one that lasted from 2016 to 2020, completed into 13 volumes. And it has this nice balance and consistency with the jokes, because while the romance is centered around them, the themes and the humor also transcend to the rest of the cast. First, there's Amane Katagiri, their president at the literature club. Half of the time, she's the sane one of the club, given she monitors the two lovebirds with communication issues, questioning and being just as pissed as the rest of the audience with any limited progress, noticing how odd and weird everyone else is and compared in moments. Then there's the fact that she actually goes around spying on them, uses their romantic experience as material for her romance novels, and let's just say she's the punching bag for a lot of worst-case scenarios. Heck, she's seen as unattractive for reasons that are probably just down to her spying antics. The girl's so desperate for love, she thought a security guard asking for ID was him hitting on her. Post the anime chapters adapted, she does get a bit more luck, especially when it comes to romance. And her friends eventually see the value she has, especially since she's mentoring AG on getting better at ELA and romantic understanding. Later on, we get Koto Otsuki. The anime kind of makes her slightly more mature, but she's definitely a troll who's been teasing Eiji ever since she was a younger child, and acting like his big sister to make herself look more mature, with her crazy assortment in skills and jobs. But her actual maturity ties into the romance plot and part of the themes of the story, which I won't spoil for now. After is Kino Takaobe, who's a perfect friend for Nanako and Eiji because her thought process is just as confusing. But contrast Nanako because she uses her canvas and skills as an artist, which leads to a really funny scene where they communicate via Senryu and artwork. Both of them happy they have a friend, which is heartwarming but hilarious since for anyone else looking around like Amane and Eiji, the entire mood becomes quiet. Which is why reading the manga and watching the anime is also great, because in the manga you actually see her going on these long rambles and you have her seen out in written form. Same with Nanako's actress saying the lines that she wrote even though neither of them are speaking. What the anime does is even better. With Nanako, her senryus are her form of communicating with others. With Kino, her voice actress says the whole ramble in that written form as a representation of how insane and long-winded her conversations can go. Afterwards is Tao Charlotte Hanakai, who's sort of a butt monkey to... Compared to Amane, though, she's more suffering in more situational circumstances. She's actually a high school goth who works as a fortune teller, and Nanako and Eiji were the first quote-unquote couple with the highest compatibility rating. Tao is more put together, and compared to Amane, she tries to be the stoic, cool fortune teller, and is only 50-50 in those goals. What's interesting is her relationship with Koto, and trigger warning for my bigoted viewers, but her and Koto's dynamic leans low-key like lovers. Yes, they're best friends, but then Koto kissed her while they were drunk. Tao felt like sharing her water bottle with Kino was comparable to her first kiss. And then there's the fact they basically trained and lived with each other as roommates in spoiler-related content I will not bring up. But it fits because Tao is working to be someone she generally wants to be, while Koto already does that and is pushing her art skills to the max in spite of her physical shyness. In a way, they're basically what Eiji and Nanako are. Comfortable with each other and trusting in each other. It's just the main characters need to keep growing to actually get to that point romantically. So the last two characters weren't adapted in the manga. One, because it'd be easier to streamline the events of the story into 12 episodes. The other because she didn't debut in the manga until after the anime ended. Komachi Akashi and Idori Fujimaru. They have a bit of spoilers regarding them, but they're basically Komachi is a character that shows the opposite of embracing yourself against the concept of having someone you love for who you are. And Iori, in a lighthearted way, explores the inability to express yourself in some ways and show who you should try and let that out. So I hope you all check out Senryu Girl when you get the chance. I know I'm not doing the best job of selling it, but here's my recommendation. Watch the anime's 12 episodes, it's only that long. Then check out the manga if you can find it. It's only 173 chapters, and it really should have gone to season 2, 3, or even 4. But you only get a second season of a romance anime adaptation of a manga if you really blow up. But it wasn't a failure when you think about it. It went for 5 years with a solid conclusion. Plus, it's not like the author hasn't slowed down one bit. Senryu has had over 600,000 copies, solid in print, with the anime generating over 100,000 copies. Then his other ongoing work is getting an adaptation called Detectives These Days Are Getting Crazy, or Mataku Saikin no Tainji to Tikara is getting an anime adaptation by July 2025, and is already at 900,000 copies. Heck, his next work, Tune Into the Midnight Heart, is getting an anime adaptation produced by Studio Gecko for 2026. There's no way it's going to cover everything, but based on the hype that it's getting, it's probably going to just cover the first 40 to 50 chapters, and then move on to season 2 later on. Hopefully. But yeah, I really hope you give Senryu Girl a shot. It's a fun romance and comedy, and if you're curious about the other 2 titles, now you know where the author got started from. Now, because this is Poetry Month, and I really wanted to get this out before the end of the month, but before I end, a poem and some haikus I've written for all of you. Thank you all for the 5 support throughout the last 7 months. I am grateful. 5. And a haiku for my thoughts of you all. Followers are friends. 5. Willing to let you take. 7. Willing to let you take the. 7. Lead on your ventures. 5. No joke. Thank you all. 5. And here's haikus and Senryu for all of the main protagonists. Nanako Yukishiro. He broke the source of my depression and gave me a new way to speak. Eiji Busujima. Mistreated victims never stop running until they find a place where they'll find acceptance. Amane Katagiri. Romance. Trapped either constructing or falling to its grip on your hearts. Koto Otsuki. Those that wear the mask of maturity will have to face their cracks soon. Kino Takaobe. Communication is not that hard, you lazy sacks of flesh. Try it. Tao Charlotte Hanakai. Superstitions come, self-imposed, or pave the road to reality. Komachi Akashi. You won't win the war for his authenticity, lying to yourself. Iori Fujimaru. That's not chest pain, you dense imbecile. You're in love. Go drink some water. That's it for me and BIP of Bizarre Interest Productions. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Signing off.